Now, one of the big benefits of using something like a Ubiquiti network over a simpler router solution is the fact that it can let you know what is going on inside your network in real time. And with that comes notifications, alerting that you can put in place to let you know when there's changes, updates, or even trouble on the network. So today I thought we would dive into the world of notifications, specifically network notifications, so you guys can be alerted as to what's going on in your network. Hey guys, Tim Tritch here with Ethernet Blueprint. So I love the fact that Ubiquiti gives you the ability to fine-tune or tweak your notifications specifically based off of your needs and your setup. And I think overall, they've done a pretty good job with their notifications, even though there's been changes over the years. However, I do think there is some room for improvement, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later in the video. But I do want to keep today's video sort of laser focused. We're just going to be focusing on Unifi network notifications, and we're going to cover the following things. We're going to talk about the two different types of notifications that you can go in and tweak and set up. We're going to talk about where to go to get to those notification settings, even though they have some shortcuts built in. We're going to do a brief overview of what each of the different types of notifications mean so you guys can decide whether or not they're relevant to you. And then I do want to discuss a couple areas where I think Unifi needs to make a couple improvements. And so I think it's important for you guys going into this to know where their shortcomings are so you know what the system can notify you on and what it can't. Let's get started. Now, like I just mentioned, there are basically two different types of network notifications that we're going to be looking at in today's video. The first one is the console/host. You'll see it called the control plane here in just a second. Now, these alerts are related to the actual physical hardware that is hosting your Unifi controller software. And depending on which hardware you have running in your house will determine what you can turn on or off, and I'll show you exactly what I mean by that here pretty soon. The second type of alerting is the network application alerting, right? And I think when a lot of you think network alerts, this is the part you're thinking of. These alerts are related to your network devices, your clients, potential network threats, internet changes, firmware updates, things like that. Things that are actually happening on the network. And so I'm going to show you how to set up these network alerts as well. Now, one thing I do want to call out is that other applications, if your hardware does allow you to run other Unifi applications, Unifi Talk or Unifi Protect, for example, those other applications come with their own forms of alerting or notifications. We're not going to be talking about those in today's video. We're just going to stay focused on the network ones so you guys can get those set up first. I will do a separate video specifically on the Unifi Protect notifications because it's kind of its own beast and how they've changed their alarming. But today we're going to just stick with the network so you guys can get that stuff set up. All right, so let's kick things off with the console/host notifications, right? So this is the physical hardware that is managing and running your network controller in your house. And so I have a bunch of examples here. So these are basically all examples of Unifi devices that have local controllers, and depending on which one you have will determine what notifications you guys have access to. So we have the Cloud Gateway Ultra, Cloud Gateway Max, Unifi Express, CloudKey Gen 2 Plus, and CloudKey Gen 2. We'll talk about those very specifically because they're out there still. They're probably not used as often these days, but they are still out there. You have your UDM Pro Max, UDM Pro, UDM SE for your rack-mounted options, and then you have your Dream Router, Dream Machine, and Dream Wall, which, yes, I realize you can't get your hands on some of those, but we're still going to talk about them as part of the video because they will have these notifications that we're talking about. All right, so depending on which one is you, will determine what you can get access to. And what I really mean by that is some of these have storage, right? So some of these can run the Unifi Protect software in addition to the network software. So there is alerting on the physical hardware that will tell you when you have hard drive issues or the hard drive has been ejected, things like that. You're not going to see those in the Cloud Gateway Ultra, which doesn't have any storage options. I'm going to show you what that looks like here next. All right, so we're going to jump into my UDM Pro here, and I'll show you some of the notification settings. Now, the reason I like using the UDM as our kind of example, it can run the whole suite of applications. It has onboard storage, so it's going to give you the full list of notifications that you have available to you. So in order to get to the host/console, the local hardware notifications, we're going to go down into settings, and then we're going to choose control plane, and then we're going to go over here to push notifications, okay? Now, a couple things I want to call out right away. First off, you can see, hey, to get to your other ones, you can just hit go here. We're not going to do that right now, but just so you know, it does allow you to get there quickly from this screen, which I like. If yours doesn't have all these listed, make sure this checkbox is checked, because it'll basically says I want to customize my notifications or I don't. And so if you have it unchecked, the list won't be here. So make sure you have that checked. And then we're just going to go down the list. You'll notice that you have a little bell icon as well as an envelope, just in case that's not self-explanatory. The bell icon means that your cell phone app, the Unifi network app, will notify you, so you get notifications on your cell phone if you use it for that. And the envelope means it'll email the email account that you have set up on your account. So you can either do one or the other, you can do both, you can do neither. It's up to you on where you want to get your notifications. So let's just kind of go down. Now remember, these are notifications that pertain to the physical hardware that we have running the network controller. So these are going to be more alarms that are of that type. So you have shadow mode event. Okay, so if we hover over the little information, it says changes made to the shadow gateway, including updates, disconnects, automatic failovers, and more. So recently they made it so your console can actually fail over to a secondary router. Now this will be a feature that isn't available on all the devices, but with the UDM Pro, you can set up a second UDM Pro as a inline redundancy device, okay? So this basically alarm says a shadow event happened, and it'll let you know what's going on. Now, I don't have a secondary one hooked up. I do have one. I'm going to play with it at some point, but I don't have it in line right now, so I don't need those notifications on. Okay, drive failure, fairly self-explanatory. The drive is no longer working. I want to know about that because I do have Unifi Protect cameras at my house. Drive issues detected. Sometimes you can get in front of it a little bit. Maybe there's a clip you want to go quickly download, but it lets you know if there's something impacting the performance. It'll let you know, you can turn on if maybe you're doing this and your host is somewhere else, your parents' house or something. If they install a new hard drive, you can notify that. Incompatible drive, very important, but again, I don't have that turned on. The drive gets ejected. You can be notified of that. And then network application actions. So this is basically an administrator. Maybe you have multiple administrators on this, which you are allowed to do. Installs, starts or stops a service, that kind of stuff. It will notify you that. Well, I'm the only one who manages my system, so I don't need to be notified when that stuff happens, okay? As we scroll down the list, you're going to get into more of the updates. So this is console update available, right? So you can see right here that we're running Network 856, okay? That is the network application version, all right? The console application, there's an operating system that's running on your console, also has updates. So if we go over here into the Updates tab, you can see that we're running 4.0.21 on my UDM Pro, okay? So that is the console OS that we're running, and this notification will let us know if there is an update. It'll let you know if the console's updated. Okay, so I like to turn these ones on because if I'm running an update and then I walk away, it's nice. I'll get a pop-up and says, "Oh, your thing's up to date." So I have those turned on. Application of update available. So, like I was just saying in here, you have your different applications you run. You can see right here that my Protect has an update available. So I'm currently running 5.0.47, and it's letting me know there's an update, 5.0.51. Now, I got notified today of this, and like an idiot, I swiped the alert away, so I was going to show you guys, and I didn't think about it. So I'm sorry I didn't get to show you the notification, but this actually popped in today, and so I got notified of it, which is nice, and it tells me I can go in and go ahead and update things. This lets you know that the application was actually updated. So again, successfully, the update ran and it was successful. So I have those turned on. Now the other ones these ones down here are admin activity. Again, I kind of mentioned that I'm the only one that monitors mine, but maybe you and your wife or you and your son or whatever are going to monitor the home network. It's nice to know when things happen. So this will let someone know that another admin has been added. This will let someone know that admin's been removed or role has been changed. You can have There's the owner of the account, the administrator of the account. Maybe there's just some local rights, view only, you know, kind of thing. So there's some roles that you can assign to users. Okay, so if anything changes, you can be notified. Something in the admin settings are actually changed. Admin access happens. So it'll actually, you can be notified, say you have 2 of you that monitor the system. And let's say your son's name is Scott, whatever. If Scott gets on and does something, you can be notified that he's in the system. And that's what this means. A different admin got into the system. And then console ownership transferred. So if you're like, I actually use this sometimes. I'll build a device for a client or something, and then I'll build it under my account, and then I'll transfer ownership to them. I'll use these notifications to let me know that that was successful. And then you have backups, right? So there's backups that are taken in your system. You can see system backups here, auto weekly. The last one was done on November 4th. So you can actually be notified when those backups happen. Now, I'm in my system enough. I check it pretty regularly. So I don't have those turned on, but I absolutely could turn those on, okay? Now, I wanted to kind of point out some of the differences, and I wanted to go into the Cloud Key as well. I don't have a Cloud Key Gen 2 without the hard drive. I have a Cloud Key Gen 2 Plus that does have the hard drive. So quickly, let's just dive into that. And if we go in there, I'm going to actually go into my buddies. You can see that basically it's all the same stuff, except it doesn't have that shadow feature, right? Because it's not a router that has failover built into it, it's just the controller. It's just going to let you know about these other things. But as you can see, they are pretty similar, exactly the same as a matter of fact. Okay, now if we go into a Cloud Gateway Ultra, for example, and we're in our notifications, you can see there is no hard drive stuff in here because that device doesn't have any local storage. And that's some of the things I was kind of pointing out earlier. Based on what hardware you have will determine which notifications you can set or not set, okay? So I just wanted to point out one of the differences and show you that here because I had one handy that's sitting at my house and I'm setting up for someone. So we'll go back over into mine. Now, this is how I like to have mine, but it's based off of my actions, how much I'm in the system, how much I look around, what I'm actually doing. Your circumstances may differ than mine, and you might want to turn more things on. Maybe you prefer email over the app notification. You hate your phone chiming all the time. You can go ahead and just turn on the emails or both. You'll see that I have some both set up in the other type of notifications we're talking about, okay? So that is generally one area of notifications that you guys are going to want to set as you get into setting these up and getting things going. Again, your hardware will determine what you can see, but this is a really, really nice benefit of using something like Ubiquiti. All right, let's move over to the network application notifications next. All right, guys, so we're going to stay inside the UDM Pro, but this time we're going to switch over and we're going to talk about the network application notifications, right? And these are the ones that I think you guys are probably a little bit more envisioning when you think of your system notifying you of what's going on. So as you can see right here, we can hit go here and it'll take us right there. But I want to show you guys the long way so you guys know how to get there. It's actually down here below the settings. You'll see system log. Then you see all these tabs up here, and then you're going to go into settings. It doesn't actually say notifications. It says settings, okay? If you don't see this down here, make sure you have this click to on, right? Clicking it to off makes this disappear. And we're going to go down through the list. Now, as we go down through the list, a couple things I want to point out here. One, we're not going to be switching back and forth between the other devices that we did earlier because as long as you're running the network application, you're going to have access to the same alerts. It does not matter which device you're using. So the Cloud Gateway Ultra, as well as this one, as well as the Cloud Key that we looked at earlier, all have the same notifications. So we don't need to be bouncing back and forth. The other thing I want to point out as we go down the list is that I'm going to kind of jump onto something a little bit early is some of these notifications, in my opinion, are a little bit vague. It's one of the areas I think that Ubiquiti could improve themselves upon a little bit. And it's just one of the things I don't like. And so as we go down, I'll kind of point those out. But it's one of the things I kind of alluded to earlier where I think there's some room for improvement. But it's still nice to be notified when things are going down. All right, so we're going to just go ahead and go down the list here. So this is top one here under the critical category is using backup internet. This is different than the shadow gateway that we talked about earlier where you're actually failing over to different hardware. This is backup internet. So if you have two internet providers plugged into your router at the same time, this alert will let you know if you fail over from one to the other and also when you fail back, okay? The same alert does both. Now, I don't have backup internet today. I will be getting it very soon. We're going to do some video series on that. So if you guys like my style of videos, I encourage you to like or subscribe so you know when more. But I will be doing a video on that. We'll break down how to set it up, how to go in and tweak it. We'll do some testing, and we'll actually play with that a little bit. But I don't have it today, so I don't have that alert turned on. The next one is the Unifi LTE data limit warning. So if we read it, it says the Unifi LTE device has reached or exceeded its monthly data limit. Now, what are they talking about here? So Ubiquiti actually sells an LTE backup. It's a backup internet that you can plug in. It connects to this little device here, and there's two different options. There's just the LTE backup, and then there's the LTE backup Pro. The big difference between the two is this one allows you to add your own AT&T data plan to a SIM card, a nano SIM, and plug it in, and you kind of like add it to your own plan. If you use this one here, you'll notice in the fine print, it says works with AT&T network. Subscription plans are $15 a month for 1 gig of data plus 10 gig for each additional gigabit of data. So what we're talking about here is that, right? If you have this and you have this plan that you're paying for, that notification is going to let you know if you're going to go over your limit, okay? So it's very specific, but when they came out with that device, they added some notifications for it. Now this one's a big one, the Unifi device connection change. Now let's read the description. It says Unifi device has connected or disconnected or reconnected, okay? This is going to be like your access points, a switch, cameras, whatever. If you have a device, the things that show up in your list of devices here, if any of these changes their connection status, you're going to get a notification on it. Now, this is a big one for me. I love this. I want to know if there's something going on. If I have an access point go down or something go down, I want to be notified to it. So I have that turned on for both. I don't want to miss that notification. So I have both types turned on there. All right, so there is redundant power. Some of the equipment, like the UDM Pro and stuff, can have redundant power plugged in. So if for some reason you are using redundant backup power and you trigger over to the backup power, maybe you have 2 different PDUs you're plugged into, you can be alerted. I don't have that, so I'm not too worried about it. Device IP address failure. So if we read this one, it says your gateway is not assigning IP addresses to its connected devices. I've never had this alert happen. My router's always been routing, so it's not too big a deal, but to me, it's something that I would want to know if something happens, so I have that one turned on. And then smart power restarts. So a smart power plug or strip restarts a device. Now this one I should probably show you here. So if we go over here and we go search for power, let's see here. Let's find their smart power here. So right here, you have this little smart power strip, 49 bucks. They have a couple different versions of smart power. If you have one of these devices, and I actually really like this feature, although it's got a little bit of bugs in it, I think, but ultimately I like what they did. So you can buy a smart power strip, and basically you can, when you adopt it into the system, it just connects to your Wi-Fi automatically. And then when you adopt it in the system, you can say, my router's plugged in here, my modem's plugged in here, this is my NAS or whatever. You can assign what's plugged into each one of these ports. The one you have identified as a modem, okay, so if we have our modem identified right here, if you ever lose internet, this will actually automatically power cycle that device to try to restore your internet. It's kind of a self-healing situation. I really like that it does it. It's a neat feature. It doesn't always work, but you know, sometimes all you need is a quick modem reboot and you're back up and running. This has the ability to do it on its own, which I thought was kind of cool. But you can see it attempts to automatically recover from internet outages, and ISP modems and optical network terminals using the plugs are reset during an outage. So if your internet goes down, it'll actually try rebooting your modem for you, which I think is pretty cool. So that is what this alert has. What it means, it says your smart power has restarted a device, and it's going to let you know that. I don't use them, so I don't have that on. DNS server issues. I have that turned on. Very vague. This is one of those ones that's just kind of vague. I don't know what all qualifies as a DNS server issue, but if I'm having trouble resolving something or my equipment can't resolve something, I guess I want to know about it, so I have those turned on. If you have a Radius server, again, Radius server issues. It probably covers multiple things, but they don't really get too specific. So unless you have a Radius server and you've received alerts, that's the only way you're really going to know unless you dive in, and I'm sure some other people have done some write-ups on it. Rogue client detections. Okay, this is kind of a bizarre one, right? So when your access points detect other access points, so it can see your neighbor's Wi-Fi and stuff like that, rogue clients basically means there is a client connected to those rogue APs and your system is detecting it. So a lot of times, the specific use case for this where it really gets scary is if someone has the same SSID as you, they're broadcasting the same SSID as you, and there's a client connected to that, basically any AP that's broadcasting the same name or something similar that isn't managed by your system is seen as a rogue network, a rogue AP. So clients connected to that AP are seen as rogue clients. And so if you're being attacked, that could be one way that the attacker's trying to gain access to your network, sort of a man-in-the-middle spoofing kind of thing. And so we want to be alerted to that. Now, I haven't really run into that too much. You can see I don't have it on. I'm not too worried about it. But just to show you guys, when you do turn them on, you'll see the little apply comes down here. We can go ahead and apply, and we've added it. So I just turn that on. I didn't show you this in the other settings, but when you turn on or off those, there is no apply. It just turns on. There's no save. There's no nothing. You just turn it on, and you can exit out of the screen. But here, there's an apply. So that's how that works. And then here's another one, switch issues. Very vague. It could be a different array of switch issues. I don't know if it's going to let you know if a port goes bad or what. I've never had this alert happen. I want to know if there's switch issues, so I have it turned on, but I've never really seen what all that encompasses. So to me, it's kind of a gotcha, or not a gotcha, it's kind of a catch-all. Little vague. Ubiquiti, I think you could do better. But again, maybe they have to do it like that because otherwise there'd be too many things to list. And that's okay, I get that too. All right, so now we're gonna go down into devices here. So you have your device adoption or discovery. I have that turned on. You wanna see if there's new devices ready to be adopted. So we turn that in there. You'll see channel radar detections. Okay, so this I kind of got to show you too. So if we go over into an access point here and we just pick one, so I'll go into second floor, go into my settings, and see how the channels are set to auto. I like my stuff set to auto, but you can see under, whoops, this is 2.4. This is under 5 gigahertz. If we go to the 5 gigahertz, you can see the main channels here, and then you'll see these DFS channels, right? These are actually 5 gigahertz channels that are used by weather services or radar and things like that. So if your system chooses one of those channels and then it detects radar, it'll actually notify you about that. So that is what that is in there. I haven't received any. I may not have any weather stuff in my area, but that's what that means. Okay, so I have seen people get alerted to channel radar detections. AP changes. AP channel changes. So if your APs are switching between channels, it'll tell you that. That can be kind of busy because if you have everything set to auto, they may change, fairly frequently. If that's something you want to know, this is a great alert. If it's something that you don't care to know, then it's just white noise and you might get bugged by it. And then rogue access point detection. So we kind of talked about that a little bit with the rogue clients. It'll let you can be alerted if your system actually picks up rogue access points, okay? And actually, I'm going to turn that on too, just to kind of see what alerts I get for that, because I'm curious. All right, so then you got admin access, right? So if someone accesses the network, so if I come over here in the network admin activity, you can see Tim Tritch did this, Tim Tritch opened Unified Network. If you had multiple people that had access to this, you would be notified to that if you had these turned on. Again, I'm the only one who does anything on mine. Updates, device update statuses. So this will let you know if any of your APs have firmware updates that are happening, which is great. It'll also let you know when updates have been installed. So you can see if I hover over this, it's a couple different things. It's when they're available, when they've been installed, or if they fail to install. So all of those are encompassed in this one update. So I have those turned on because I like to know when my stuff has updates. Network client connection change. So this would be clients connecting or disconnecting from the network. Now this is one area that I think it would be neat if you could set certain specific clients to notify you and not just turn this on or off. Because basically this is letting me know when anybody leaves the house, their phone disconnects from the Wi-Fi or reconnects when they get home, which I guess is okay information, but again, it turns into a lot of white noise. It'd be really nice if you could specify, I want to know when my daughter's phone connects or disconnects, right? Then the specificity of all that would be really beneficial to me, I think. But just turning it all on and learning when everything connects or reconnects, there's just too many devices on the network, and I don't care to know that. And the hotspot is basically like your guest, right? Hotspot client, connection change. If you have someone connect to your guest network, you can be notified to it. So I don't have that happen enough that I care to be notified. Now, we'll get down into your threats is next. Threats is detections and prevention. So if we read this, it says suspicious network activity has been detected or blocked. So if you have network security turned on in your device, I would recommend typically having this turned on. And as a matter of fact, I turned it off earlier and forgot to accidentally turn it back on. So normally I have that turned on. I have received some notifications with this. They're typically very general. They don't get too specific unless it's like an IP, conflict or something like that. So it's nice to have this one, but again, a little bit too general Unifi, if you ask me. I think there's some room for improvement there. It'd be nice to be able to turn on certain types of detections, maybe certain ones that were prevented, not just detected, right? I stopped this from happening. I want to be alerted to that, but I don't care about all the stuff you're detecting, right? So maybe be able to fine tune that a little bit would be great, but this is what we have to work with. So we'll go ahead and turn that one on. And then VPN client connection changes. So if you do use VPN services as part of your router, this is where you'd be notified on that. So all in all, I do think the notifications are great, right? And being able to tweak these and set them and set them in a way that allows you to be notified as to what's going on in your network based on your criteria is really nice. A lot of simpler routers out there really don't let you fine-tune the notifications. They're either on or off, and they'll kind of let you know a few things that are happening, but this really allows you to kind of deep dive. Or dive in a little bit deeper, I should say. None of this is a deep dive. Matter of fact, one of the black eyes that I think Ubiquiti gets is in their router sections. You get into a more advanced router, you're going to have a lot more stuff available to you in the notifications area, what it tells you, and all that other stuff. Ubiquiti kind of gets a little bit of a black eye in the router section. They just don't take a deep dive. They show you a bunch of fancy, cool graphs and things in here, which are great, but they're not really, taking deep information and sharing it with you. They're kind of just razzling, dazzling you with these graphs and pretty colors and cool things that the software allows you to do. But it's not really true, like if you're a network admin, you would want to know more than what's going on. But again, from a home user standpoint, this is really, really great stuff. And I really like it. And we're actually going to take a deep dive in another video too about how to use the display here, how to turn on some of the widgets that are available to you and what they actually mean, because a lot of this stuff is very, very new. It's been updated very recently, and so I think we should probably dive into it. But this video is already getting long enough, so we're not going to do it here. All right, guys, so the last thing I want to talk about here is not meant to gripe on Ubiquiti in any way, shape, or form. It's really just some things that I see as could be improved upon. You can agree or disagree, and feel free to leave comments, guys. I love the open forum of our comments section. I think we've kind of started to build a little community here, and I love what you guys input. You guys keep me honest, and I appreciate it. So I kind of alluded to this a little bit ago when we were talking about the list of items, that some of them are a little bit vague, right? There's not a lot of meat there, right? Switch issues, DNS issues, threats and prevention detected, right? So those are great. It would be nice to be able to dial in or fine tune them, at least define to me what switch issues means. I mean, I have it turned on and I've never received that notification, but I would like the little information bubble that says you're going to tell me when A, B, or C happens. I think that's really nice. Matter of fact, I think all of your notifications in here should have the little information bubble. Personally, why some of them do and some of them don't, I don't really understand that. I may have an idea what DNS issues is, but it may not be the same thing of what you're actually going to notify me on. So to me, there should be an information bubble on all of them, even if it is fairly self-explanatory. Like, I mean, you have it on using backup internet. That's a pretty self-explanatory alert, but yet you still have the little bubble there. So to me, I think you should put that on all of them. But probably my biggest gripe as it pertains to notifications is going to affect every one of you that has one of those devices I showed you earlier. And it really is, you're impacted by the fact that your controller is on a piece of hardware locally in your network, okay? You'll notice that none of the alerts that we can set in here is your internet went down. Yes, you can see when you move over to backup internet if you have two ISPs. However, just notifying you when your internet goes down, it doesn't exist. So, as it stands today, if you have any one of those devices running your network, being the controller for your network, and your internet goes down, because the controller is hosted locally, and now that controller doesn't have access to the internet, it can't tell you that your internet's down. It's been a huge problem for me. I don't love that. I want to know, more than a lot of this stuff, I want to know when my internet goes down. And as it stands right now, a locally hosted controller cannot tell you. Now, when your internet comes back up, it's going to have all sorts of internet information for you. It's going to let you know, hey, you had an internet outage and it was this long and blah, 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 blah. It will tell you that it happened, but it's after the fact, after you've recovered, that you get that information. And I really don't understand this. Now, granted, I don't know how the inner workings of the Unifi cloud versus the local really work, but to me, when I go to access my UDM Pro, even if I'm sitting in my house, I go to unifi.ui.com. I rarely go to the local IP address to get into my router. I'm doing it from their cloud instance, their cloud access. So to me, since my router's talking to the cloud, if my internet goes down and all of a sudden it can't talk to the cloud anymore, there should be some way that Ubiquiti can notify me, even if it's like email only because my cloud instance doesn't talk on the app. It only talks via email. It would be nice to know that. I don't understand why that isn't the case because like many of you out there, you work from home. You want to know if you're having internet issues. You don't want to just not be able to connect. So to me, that's kind of a gripe. I've had that gripe for a long time. A lot of people will use like Domotes or other third-party monitoring tools that have a cloud instance to let them know when their internet goes down, but then there's extra cost involved. I actually have a device on my network called Firewalla, which I will have a Firewalla series coming out here too, and it will tell me when the internet goes down. So I do get notified, but I don't get notified from Ubiquiti. So kind of a gripe in my book. I wish they'd fix it. It's been this way for a long time and still no updates. So guys, gripe about it, get on their list, get it on their radar so they get in there and fix it. All right, guys, so that's going to do it for me. Thank you for tuning in. If you guys like what we're doing here, please, I encourage you to like or subscribe to the channel. I do really try to engage with my audience in the comment section and help you guys with your questions along the way. And I'd love for you to be a part of our community here. So hopefully you guys found this helpful. I appreciate you tuning in and sticking with me there all the way to the end. And we'll see you guys down the road in a future video.